Hello, everyone. My name is Remi Lorenz, and welcome to Many Minds. Today, I will be interviewing Jesper Eriksen, world champion, TCPI's newest caster and creator of Epic Splash. But first, a word from our sponsors. This channel is supported by RareCandy.com, your go-to Pokemon TCG app. Endgame, premium sleeves. Use code REMI for 10% off. And CGC Grading, my preferred grading company. So, Jesper, to start out this interview, the first question will be the TCG has only a few truly deeply rooted families. How did that legacy begin for the Eriksons?
I think the from what I got told by Stefan was that our legacy started back when his friend Lars started playing, and they started playing together. And then my second oldest brother Simon got into the game. Then my youngest of my older brothers Jonas got into the game, and then on my 6th birthday I got into it. It's not that complicated really. It was just a drizzle down effect of someone getting to learn how to play from someone else and then popping over to younger sibling, younger sibling, younger sibling continuously. And it's just been going on since, well, for myself, 2007 was when I was the last one to learn it. And then I mean we've even had results as my dad top 8 internationals. So I think for all the times, like our entire family has played. It's not just like many families where the only the kids are playing. It's also from our parents, actually also having decent accomplishments too. So yeah, it's not that complicated. But the legacy started, back in I think 2005 or something like that, and then just kept growing.
Okay, that's very fascinating. Do you have, what would be your best placement out of the entire family? Like, because I know you won a world championships. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
but if we take it with the World Championships, I top eight at Worlds the year before, still in the seniors, which was one of the ones that up till winning Worlds I was the proudest of. That was a World Championship where I squeaked into day two, starting O2 back in that system where it was 5 rounds and you had to X2 to get into day two, and I won the last three. I vividly remember the moment when I got into day two, and it was a super scoop up flip. I got heads on. Had I flipped tails, the game would have probably been a 50-50, but that super screw up landed me the game at that point. And then on day two, starting 0-1 and then getting the feeling of, well, it's all to play for. And if I lose, I'm not, disappointing anyone. But I won 6 rounds straight, and at an 8 round tournament, it ends up being that you can then ID into cut, which I did. Unfortunately, losing top eight to Brent Tonneson, who, well, today is one of the greats, right? And already back then playing. But if we move on to Masters, I think one of the ones where I'm the most satisfied with is something like, OZIC 2017, my first year in Masters, top fouring an IC, and back then being one of the best seasons for a new master in like I think it was like 2 months or something where I was on top of the worldwide leaderboards. Um, which was back when, I had time to play as much as I could,
Yeah.
like being in primary school and all that, finishing up my 10th grade, and it wasn't really that hard educationally wise, so I had a buttload of time to play. But I guess the OCIC 2017 would be the one where I would be most satisfied with, but there's just many to pick off from.
Yeah. Um, and then how long have you been playing the Pokemon TCG and what deck got you into the game originally?
So as I said, I started on July 28th, 2007. And the reason why I can remember that date, it was my exact 6th birthday. So it was on my birthday. My brother started teaching me how to play, and I started off with a Cricketune deck from Diamond and Pearl. The deck was super simple. You just had to evolve into Krigatune, attach some energies, and then attack. There was nothing else to it.
Like today's Raging Bolt.
Yeah, the one that the variant that won the JCS for sure. But I would say like the other Raging Bolt variant, you still
Yeah.
got certain, you still gotta
You
do
got
stuff. This deck was, yeah, exactly. This deck was as bare bones as it could get. And then it evolved throughout the season. Like a couple months after I switched over to Blissey, which was my main deck for the rest of the season. Got to Worlds with that. Um, but yeah, like I started, that was the way we started. And like in a month's time. I've been playing for 18 years. So it means that whenever I played regionals, the likelihood of me sitting across someone where I played for longer than they've been alive is actually pretty high.
That's honestly pretty impressive. I know you've definitely been playing longer than I've been alive.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Not that hard to do.
and then, what is your favorite Pokemon of all time?
My favorite Pokemon has changed a bit throughout the history. I was a big fan of like Shaman back in the day, and it is also up there. I like it in terms of the um the art of it, but I think the one that I like the most is Oranguru. And it's also the part of my favorite deck ever, which is the Pidgeotto control, which was the deck that I felt the most satisfaction while playing. I top-eighted regionals with it, and I felt, you know, unbeatable whenever I played at my best with that deck. Unfortunately, only had around about 2 months or something to do that. Threw away a top eight or potential top eight in Daytona the same season due to jet lag. But you know, after that, it was just my favorite. That card was so broken with the resource management, being able to pull back free cards from your discard pile into your deck, where you just airmailed and you hand controlled your opponent. You locked down the board on turn five, and your opponent just sat there and could do absolutely nothing about it. So it squeaked up in there as my favorite Pokemon. Other than that, I've sometimes just answered Ditto because I just like the way that Pokemon.
Yes.
It's every single Pokemon with just a weird smiley face on it, but whatever. It's every single Pokemon. You just transform.
I love
Um,
that too.
yeah, and that's what I love about Pokemon is that it has something for everyone. So if I have to choose Oranguru, if I'm like I don't care about the answer, we go Ditto.
Honestly, I knew you would say control that control at the mo like at some time during this interview. It was probably one of the best control decks that they released, besides probably Sableye or whatever Junk Hunt Sableye.
I mean, it depends because the Sable Lock decks weren't actually really good. They were good to expand it for a little bit, but they weren't actually truly broken. That was the differentiator between them because the Oranguru control actually was literally broken because some decks just absolutely beat Sableye, and you can like the both decks had immense skill expression, which was something that I really did like, and I used a lot of hours onto that deck. Not really just playing, but theorizing a lot of spots you can get into. But I would say that it depends on how you define what control is. Because if you put control, stall, and locking into the same definition, I would actually say that the bet was like an honorable mention for the best control deck if you put all those three into the same bowl would be Chandler Selgor with Vileplume.
Honestly, the only card that I know is the Vileplume because I used to play it. It's the item lock one, right?
The Selgor would paralyze your opponent and you would move into a Chandelure. Chandelure had an ability that said when it was in the active spot, you could put free damage counters on your opponent's board as you wanted. And then you just kept using deck and cover to paralyze and poison your opponent. And
Okay.
then they would never get a chance to actually promote because with the Chandelure, you would make sure that whenever their opponent got knocked out, it would be into your turn. And that was why the Chandelure was such an important part of that deck.
Yeah, so it's almost like Bakium, but a lot better.
Yeah. Like Behemoth was not great because yes, it item locked and then you threw up a wall.
Yeah.
But the issue with that was that yes, you item locked, but you weren't, you couldn't get bossed. In that format, there was only Pokemon Catcher. There was no boss on the supporter. There was non-flip Pokemon Catcher, which was, well, broken to say. That was why they changed that after 2013 Worlds. But that deck locked you down. Like Behemoth wasn't a lock, it was the soft lock.
Yeah.
Like when I'm talking locks, I'm talking true locks. You can draw and you can pass. That's all you can do. Or maybe potentially play supportive, but realistically in that format, no supporters matter. The only way to beat this Elgar deck back then was play 1/1 Espeon, which made sure that your opponent's effect didn't work on your Pokemon. So um like those two decks have a special place in my heart, even though like the Selgar lock deck was back when I was like 11 and I haven't really played it until I was older when I revisited the format. And the only reason why that Darkrai Mewtwo won that Worlds was because that if you got an N off against the Chain Silver deck, like the setup part was immense of that deck. And in Top Cut, the Top Cut rules were almost the same as we have today, with a few changes. And like if the Chain Silver deck dropped a game, it could not win two games in, let's just say, 45 minutes. That was impossible.
Yeah. Um, so to follow up on the question, if you could like play any deck with no bans in today's meta, what would it be?
I think some concoction of either Life Dew looping deck would be very good. But then we see Jellicent coming out blocking tools. Um, and like if you can mash together like a handlock, yeah, I honestly think a handlock would be great. But there's literally what you're saying there is if I could play a deck in the unlimited format, it would be anything with Sableye from Stormfront, and then something that could just take out your opponent's board in turn one.
Igglybuff, Jigglypuff, and Cleffa or something like that. If you could set that.
Yeah, no, not really those. You can take them off by Pokeblower and stuff like that. Cards, you weren't even born back
Yeah,
then,
I wasn't
buddy.
bored. I don't know half the cards. Like, okay, I
Yeah,
probably like list a lot of the cards going from probably from when I started, which was XY Evolutions.
that's late. Yeah, that's 2016. Yeah, I mean, like when you think about it, like if you played unlimited format in Pokemon, and this is the whole reason why we have rotations, and well, also subsequently bans and expanded, is because that the cards will truly be broken.
Yeah,
We've seen that with Shift Tree and Forest of Giant Plants. Like that was the reason why Forest of Giant Plants got banned. Pokemon does not want people to have an easily accessible win condition going first on turn one.
yeah. Like we have Donk today, but it's not as good as the old Donk decks that you can do like 300 damage turn one.
Or wipe your opponent's board where they
Yeah.
have more than one Pokemon. I think the donk we have today is whatever.
It's yeah.
It's not going to be tournament viable ever. It's only to, get yourself up to 400 something on the ladder.
Yeah.
Um, and like the donk decks of the past were definitely more potent than what we have today.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And then like on the topic of like all the stuff that you like doing, the jet lag maybe isn't one of them, like before an event. Do you have any lucky charms or superstitions you always do before an event?
I mean, I'm not, I have a lot of routines that I do, like the shower before the event and like getting a bit of stretching done before I actually go to the venue, just like physically, because I just hate feeling that my body's cramped up and I want to feel like a little bit loose and being able to move. But like I wear this necklace I got from my girlfriend every single day, which I wore to start with only at tournaments. And since getting that, it was like Christmas this year, or last year actually. I haven't missed day two at any event besides NEIC. So actually, you can kind of say the necklace almost broke my day two streak. Well, day two win and loss streak. But that's actually untrue because I top eight Stuttgart before I got it. But let's just say that to give her some kudos for that.
Yeah. And then can you walk us through your World Championship like 2016 experience?
Oh my. So
Gotta go back 8 years, 9 years.
we're looking back 9 years, man. That's a lot. But yeah, sure. Like it has to be almost a whole season recap at that point. But I'll keep it short. Like the entirety of the season was I maxed out almost everything. The only reason why I was second on the worldwide leaderboards going into Worlds. And that was due to me not winning nationals. I lost my finals at nationals that year, and ended up in a position where, well, I was second in the world leaderboards. I got my free trip to Worlds. I started in day two, yada yada. Like everything was set for a good tournament. And I went in there thinking like, well, I top eighted last year. And if I top eighted again, I want to do everything that I can to not lose another top eight. Losing top eight at Worlds is not only the difference between a lot of money,
Yeah.
it always is, but it's a difference between, getting a number four trainer or number three trainer getting a trophy, and getting, invite to next year's Worlds, plus the travel paid for next year's Worlds at that point. So I would say, with that in mind, that losing top eight is the roughest match. And I almost went into it being like, if I make top eight and I lost it, I would quit because I wouldn't be able to take it. Um,
Good thing you
Luckily I didn't.
did. Yeah.
And like going into the tournament thinking that, well, it sets a precedent, right? I would be happy with top 16. And I still would have been looking back at it, but I think my career would have been a lot different had I not won. And then yeah, it started off with started two out of the tournament, felt great. Only had one auto loss in the whole field. The rest of it was actually 50-50s. And my auto loss was against Trevenant. Yeah, the good
Oh,
old
the tree that like item locks you.
yes, exactly. Where you can turn one Wally into item lock and going first. Because you can play supporters going first back then.
Yep.
And I hit this guy. He beat me 2-0 pretty swift. I got a quick lunch break, and I was like, well, my tournament rides on whether or not I don't get to play against more of them. We had 7 rounds. And then
Really?
after that, I got to play against a whole variety of matchups. Most of the decks I played against a whole day, I think I actually played against 6 different decks in 7 rounds. It was crazy.
Wow.
When I went to 5-1, I could ID, and then I got down paired. And I said, like, man, come on. I gone all this way to potentially be able to just go 5-2. But at that point, at 5-1, I secured the top 16 already. So I shouldn't be mad about it, right? But with the competitive mind that I always have, going into it, I was a bit jittery, but I took out the guy pretty quickly 2-0. He drew badly both games, had to like go Froakie flip, and I was like, versus Seeker for AC pickup, and then he lost. And that sparked me into the top eight where I won off top decking Lysander, which was Boss's Orders back
Yeah.
then. And then top four, I played against the same Trevenant guy. He goes first in top four game one. And when he won the coin flip and said, I go first, we were sitting with 4 judges beside us, 2 at each side, right? And I make them all laugh when I said, like, well, I promise you guys, this is gonna take 5 minutes, one way or the other. Um, and then like he went straight up Wally into Trevenant, but Trevenant had 110 hit points.
Yeah. You
My
need
starting hand was Yanma, Yanmega Break, Spinrag, Ariados, Force of Giant Plains, Judge, DCE. And I donked him that game, even though he had Iron Lock. Because of Yanmega being able to attack for free, Spinrag, the Ariados giving poisons of plus 10 damage essentially, and Barrier Break doing 100. So 110 for donk. Game two, he discards a Headringer, which would have made my Shaman's attack cost 1 more. So it had to use 3 energies instead of 2 to use Sky Return.
yeah.
And he got to take 5 prizes. His last prize was his second Headringer. So I sat the entirety of the game and Sky Return looped after he took 5 prizes. And I was thinking, like, where's your Headringer at, buddy? I know you're playing two. Everyone plays two. And after he played all his versus seekers, all his judges, all his ends, and every single time I kept pulling shaman and then set up into double colorless. And then whenever he had played all his resources and he accepted, well, I can't make it. Then he conceded and he showed me last prize cards, and I laughed. And like I was like, this is, and I laughed because of like how surreal it was. Um, and then we went to finals. Finals, well, game one, I got end to 1 card. Top decks Professor Sycamore of the 1 card. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, rest is history from that point. I mean, I got really lucky throughout that tournament, and I do believe that regardless of your skill level, if you had a world championships, if you had a regional championships, if you had an international championships, there are at least 5 to 6 lucky top decks or lucky bumps or lucky dead draws on your side for you to be able to win. If there's not, you're not winning the tournament, but you could do good at the tournament. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that. You could top 32, top 16, top 8 even, but there's got to be something sent your way, otherwise you ain't gonna make it that far.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about that, is there one thing you would like to tell people when they're starting their Pokemon journey?
I think whenever you're starting your journey, like just set realistic goals for yourself at the start and be in it for the enjoyment's sake. Like you shouldn't be starting because you're like, well, I'm starting because I want to win a regional championships this season. You
Yeah.
don't you shouldn't do that. It's like whenever you're starting to play soccer or any other sport, you have to understand how to do different techniques, basically learning how to play different decks. You got to get in shape, which means playing a lot of games. That's mental shape. And also another thing I would advise people in the Pokemon community to do is get in physical shape because it makes you being able to actually, think better and have more mental stamina. Not only physical stamina, but also mental. So I don't care what else you do, but doing Pokemon only, in my mind, it sucks. Like I love Pokemon, love it to death, but I would definitely not just do only Pokemon because you would get burned out if you do that. So start off a little bit, bits by bits, and you know, gradually level up. And at some point, you might have a spike in your results. And even if it goes down again, don't worry about it. Just keep in it, keep your nose in it, and practice, practice, practice. Talk with your friends, get a friend group, get a testing partner, get testing partners in plural, and set your foundations. Foundations are really important, and I mean for this season, the entirety of the reason why I got my invite to Worlds and the entirety of the reason why I'm here was because I got to get into different groups and discuss with people what my thoughts were and get inspiration, and at that point also get to inspire others.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real here. I only play Pokemon. Like that's the only thing I do. I'll go out for sports once in a while, just like, exercise.
Yeah,
Um,
but just exercising, right? It's important that you do that.
yeah.
Like I'm the type of person who is so jittery that I can't sit for 8 hours straight and just play. I can't do that. Like whenever I play live for testing and I just ladder grind, it's like I lose a game, 10 push-ups, and then go back to the seat. And then keep on going with that. So if I'm having a bad day, at least we're getting some good exercise out of it.
Honestly, me just grinding live, I think I've got like I don't know, I play Dawn and then like everybody's triple benching, double benching, and I'm like crashing out because I'm like,
Well, 10
wow.
push-ups every time, buddy. Get in shape.
Then I go play Grimsnarl. I would be super unfit if I did that because then I go play like Marty's Grimsnarl and I go like 20-0.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be counting low ladder as much as I would
Yeah,
higher
no,
ladder.
definitely not. Like
Like
Arceus League 1600 is like I think is where it kind of starts to get hard.
it starts to get more challenging. I think the ladder turns real about 400 because that's where you kind of see people who wants to get into arc.
Yeah.
And in live, since it's best of one, things can happen, right? Like that's where it can start appearing with, some actual real losses in real games. But yes, you're saying skill level wise, the point where you get to see real stuff that is actually real and people being serious 100%, I would say yeah, 1600 is about where it starts, perhaps. And I think you're really good when you hit 1800, but it's not a necessity to hit 1800. I think it's more so a show that yes, you grinded and yes, you've done something right online, but it doesn't necessarily translate into uh, IRL as we see with. I kind of lurk into poker sometimes, and like IRL poker players uh, sometimes don't transition well into online, and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah, it's honestly definitely true. Like if we're talking about how good players can be, I honestly can't really focus when I'm playing online. Like I just like it's
Yeah,
kind of hard for me to clearly think through actions.
yeah,
Just
me too.
like it's so boring just to sit there and go,
Click, clickety, click. Yeah, but like the cards in your hands is a whole other experience. And I've seen a lot of people moving from playing live to physically and then like when I told them to do that and message me like whenever I test with just cards, it's just way different. And I'm like,
it's so
yeah, that's how
like
you're supposed to play the game.
it's like you improve just like so much when you play
Yeah.
cards because like you're actually having the experience and playing against real people
Yeah,
rather
but it's also like the psychological fact of it. Like if you only practice on live before regionals and you're on, let's just say you hit 1900 on live. that doesn't necessarily translate into good regionals because then there's a lot of things where the best players psychologically can get, an advantage of,
Yeah.
like spotting your opponents in a good seat, spotting if your opponent's doing what they want to do, what they prize. Like sometimes you can also get to have a lurk at that live as to where online you can't see a face. And you know, it's like small percentage changes that could change by that and small plays. And sometimes you have to do bluff or bluff catch in Pokemon too. And that definitely is easier live, sorry, than online. But
Yeah.
like if we have to be real here, the game is technically the same, but I think um, you know, some people who are stronger mentally and physically, they're just better live. And I think I'm in that boat.
Yeah, like IRL is so much different. Like I'm able some games to tell my opponent what's in his exact hand after the game. He's like, "Whoa, how'd you do that?" I'm like, "Well, you played these cards in a certain way, and then your face kind of showed a lot of what you had in your hand."
Yep.
But online, you can't really do that. You just have to spam emojis and pray they don't Iona you off the emojis.
Yeah, but that's like the only psychological factor on live. And I mean, pretty much you use spam emojis to tick your opponent off. So, I mean, not that they're useful for anything actually good.
Yeah. Um, Out of all the decks you've played, which one do you think was the hardest one?
Ugh, I played a lot of decks, man. I definitely write off everything I've played up until like 2014. I think is when I started with like truly hard decks. I do believe that the game was starting the EC accessibility back in like 2014, 15-ish.
Yeah.
Toad format wasn't hard to play, really. It was just ugh. Sometimes 2016 wasn't hard to play either because it was also a fast format that didn't really punish bad sequencing,
Yeah.
um, like as much as we could see today. I think, the hardest deck to play for an entire tournament, I would say instead would be like expanded Junkon Lock, which is basically Sableye Garbodor. But evolving into it would be Oranguru
Yeah.
control, the Pidgeotto control.
And you,
And that's why I feel so much pride in playing that deck because I knew that people weren't picking it up, and people who ran my list at the same events that I went to were just telling me like, "Yo, dude, how did you do this for 9 rounds?" And I was like, "Well, at some point when you played enough, it just becomes automation. You just play cards and you know the exact positions." So I think learning curve wise, I think I gotta put Pidgeotto control up there, but I'm biased.
yeah, you're a big control enjoyer.
Yeah,
Um, I'm honestly more of a fast deck enjoyer. Honestly, they're not like slow decks are definitely the best. I just had a talk with a good player about this. The like stage two decks will always be the best type of deck unless something changes. Like we're seeing mega cards coming out. Like Raging Bolt will never meet the caliber you need to play Guardy at. And there's like
no.
ways to you can outskill your opponents playing Guardy.
Yeah, but I think your argument with evolving decks and stage two decks being better is true in today's game. But back when you started, it was basics only in almost like 2016 era, you were playing basics. You were playing Evil Tall Garbodor. You were playing like that was the hardest deck to play, and that was a basic attacker. Because of the ways which you had to pilot the mirror and the way you have to like actually build the deck. So the tournament didn't start at round one, it started back home. And I think like it was like between 2012 and well, yeah, 2016 was basics era.
Yeah.
You played big basics like 2012. Yes, Chandler Selgo Vileplume was the hardest deck to play, but it was also tiny bits clunky and couldn't win in Top Cut. But Darkrai was in that format with time rules and everything taken into consideration the best deck. 7 out of 8 in top 8 of Worlds at Euro Masters was Darkrai Mewtwo. So or actually just Darkrai in any sort of fashion. In top four, it was four Darkrai decks.
So would you say that it's almost like Gardevoir, but for basics? Like Gardevoir's like really broken right now. Like everybody thought Gardevoir would be really bad. It's like
I
almost like that.
I think like when the Gardevoir like Curlia rotated, people were hanging up the white flag and they were like, "Yeah, I'm not going to play Guardy." I think people did that a bit too early. I was always on the train of, well, let's just wait and see. The early versions of Gardevoir post rotations I didn't really like. I'm not much of a Gardevoir enjoyer. I enjoyed it with Curly. I enjoyed it with Baby Gardevoir Shining Arcana.
That
I
was
haven't enjoyed it since. It's also another reason why I didn't play it, and I'm really into playing decks that I enjoy. So I think like overall, it's a tough one. But yeah, like I wouldn't necessarily be saying Gardevoir is broken in this format either. I think there's definitely ways of beating it regardless of version, but I think it's definitely currently in an AIC format at least the best deck.
yeah.
There's nothing else to say about that, but I don't think it's truly broken like a Pidgeotto control would be
Yeah.
because you can beat it.
Yeah, you can't if Pidgeotto control set up, you couldn't really beat it. So would you say that like has there ever like been a fast deck that's like broken? Like I
Hmm.
know there's been like a few, but like which ones would you say?
Sable Donk 2011. That was why they had to rotate for that.
Was it really fast? I feel like that. Oh wait, no, Sable. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
The
it won on turn one. I call that fast in my book. It was a whole lot of sequencing you had to do. It took like 10 minutes to do it, but yes, it was the entirety of the reason why they had to rotate into Dark Gold Soul Silver format for Worlds that year. So yes, truly indeed. But yeah, fast decks that are really broken. Night March.
yeah, Night March is pretty good. Um, Night March. I didn't ever get the chance to play that, but my second deck, well, the one I wanted to play was Jumpluff, and I forget. I think it's like Lost March or something.
Yeah, that was bad, but
It
we're
wasn't as
talking
good.
good. We have to talk good decks. Lost March
Yeah.
was bad.
But like
Um,
it's almost the exact same thing, but I feel like Night March is like was much better just in that format because there wasn't as many big guys.
yeah, but it's first of all that, and the fact that Lost March had to put them into Lost Zone,
Yes.
and there wasn't a lot of support for that. Battle Compressor put three into discard pile where you needed Night March Pokemon. Lost Blender put two, and drew you a card. Nice.
Yeah.
Ugh. But yeah, yeah, that's why that they made Lost March to make people believe that Night March was back, but it truly never wasn't, and it truly never wasn't
I
any
mean, yeah,
good.
Mad Party was probably the closest thing we got to Night March, but at that point it was
Mad Party was also terrible.
yeah. Would you say like fast decks like Lugia or Mew VMAX were broken? Because I'm a very big Mew VMAX glazer.
I know that I know you are. The Mew variant I think was better. Overall in its entirety lifetime was DT Mew, which wasn't the fast version. So no, Lugia. The first iteration of Lugia at the Lugia Archeops International Championships was the best variant. After the first rotation hit that Lugia variant, the deck like wasn't the same. Quick ball rotating, all the shining Pokemon rotating. The deck never wasn't the same and it just ended up being a bricky mess that only the luckiest of people could win any games with.
Yeah. Um, I honestly started playing Lugia with Marnie and Path to the Peak in that format. Just like no. Just so like you could go V-Star, Path to the Peak, Marnie your opponent. And like honestly, they couldn't really do much if you pulled off that combo. Like most decks couldn't.
But give me a percentage number on how much you pulled that off going first on your turn two.
It wasn't on it was late game. It was very late game. Like it was like, oh, you set up? Okay, well, you don't think I have disruption. Well, I go Marnie Path to the Peak and they're just sitting there like, oh. So
Yeah, but if you're playing a Lugia mirror at that point, it would just be like, I just need a quick ball to get an attacker to get the knockout. So
yeah.
I mean, the Marnie formats were all like formats I didn't enjoy either. The worlds where Marnie was most prevalent, like 2022 worlds, I went 161. Like the formats didn't suit me at all. And I think for me also to have a good season and to have a good world championships, it needs to be format that suits my play style or something I can morph myself into. And to be honest with you, the last time I've really been able to morph myself into decks has been, Giratina V-Star Lost Zone because the deck had tools. Um, Last year when I played Charizard, I mean I started 401 and I think it was more so on the back of I went into a craze, which I'm still in, where consistency is the biggest thing for me. I didn't play Dusknoir in my Charizard deck for that Worlds. I played the entirety of
You played.
B-Barrel, Pidgeot,
Yeah.
Scolwade engine in Charizard, which I think was truly great to play. But I would end up losing to people who play Dusknoir or their Charizards because while my deck was more consistent, their deck had the power. So I think, yeah, they. I'm not quite sure. I think like it's just trying to get back to the question as well, but like finish on the rant I went on there. I think like suitableness of formats is like important.
Yeah. Did you like Lost Box at all?
I did some versions of it. I didn't like Turbo Lost Box. That was something that I disliked.
I didn't like the
I
Kyogre.
liked
Is
I
Kyogre?
liked Giratina. I like Kyogre. Um, the other ones, no, not really. I played them. I played them at tournaments. I played them at multiple tournaments, but it was out of the lack of other better options.
Yeah. Those formats were kind of dry.
Yeah.
Um, what are you liking for the World Championships this year?
I mean, I've been playing Pulsar since Christmas this year, like around January, and I think if I'm ever in doubt, like a couple of weeks or a week before a tournament, you know, I'll probably just end up going back to the drawing board and drawing up a new Pulsar list, which was exactly the same thing I did for NEIC this year.
I am very
So
notorious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, so it's probably NEIC. Sorry, not NEIC. Probably Pulsar is what I meant for Worlds this year. But then again, I have a month before travel out to LA, and I'll still be conducting testing while in LA. So I mean, if you ask me now, Pulsar. If you ask me in a month, well, it could be anything, honestly.
I'm very notorious for switching decks the night before and then either like going crazy and like top 16, top 8, top 4, whatever, top cutting with them.
If you're
Or
in seniors.
okay, but like yeah, I mean honestly, it's true, but I feel like seniors is harder than masters just because it's more concentrated. Like once you go like 4-0 in masters, it becomes harder, but like the first couple of rounds, it's definitely
I think that that isn't an argument you can ever have because your amount of players is lower, and I think honestly, Remy, the concentration for you guys is the same, but you will have less people on, for example, a 4-0 record, which is why it may feel harder. But percentage-wise, your concentration would probably be around about the same of like truly elite players, and skill gap would be almost the same. But I think the reason why people would say Masters is harder, and probably why Masters is
more
factually
rounds.
harder, more rounds, more at stake.
Yeah, the
And
masters get like
you know,
5x, whatever seniors do.
yeah, but also you got to think about you're playing against grown-ups and not kids. And it's not to say that anything about, seniors being bad. I'm not saying that at all, but it's important to put into that, if, that there's a big difference between a 12-year-old kid, a 16-year-old kid, and a 25-year-old. There's so much difference in terms of, maturity and then therefore also play skill at many points.
Yeah. I have a question, and it's very important.
Mm.
Do you even splash, bro?
Heck yeah, I splash. Always splashing.
So what created the idea of Epic Splash?
The idea of Epic Splash trails back to I think it was like an Mahone video, like one of the early ones he made, where it was like a flip format, where like getting as many flip cards in. Some of our friends, Casper and Morton, went on to like trying to build that with Magikarp, and then it was actually Casper's list that was the initial OG Epic Splash list, and we changed up before the now current OG list with all the Yu-Gi-Oh cards and stuff like that is inside of it. We all went aboard the entirety of our locals, and then after Worlds 2023, it just took a massive upswing with me and Stefan trying to push for Epic Splash to be part of the regional side events, which we got. But also just getting to a point of people seeing the format, playing the format, liking the format, and liking the RNG element. And I would say playing Epic Splash is much like playing the standard format. If you start bad, you lose. And there's a lot of like you can never be too sure if you're losing or winning in a certain spot
It's honestly true.
because it could always turn. You can always turn. Your opponent can always flip tails on Gambler and just not draw anything for 15 turns. It's possible. Whereas in standard, that would not happen because you have on board draw. And that's why that whenever a new set releases, we're keeping such a hard check on whether or not the format can be broken. And currently we're at the conclusion that no, it currently cannot, but we're always checking. And we're always trying to make sure that we do our best towards, getting to a point of it's being balanced. While it may seem crazy to people who aren't playing the format that why do you need to balance out a format that's about flipping coins and rolling dice? Well, we still want to have a format where you can show up with a perfect 60 and be sure to win.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a fair shot. And yes, the amount of skill in the Epic Splash ain't high, but at least you're having fun.
I don't like, okay, I'm gonna be real here. I don't like playing different formats other than standard or expanded, but I feel like my top two are either Epic Splash or like cubing or like drafting or whatever that format would be called. Those are the top two.
Cube.
Um, no, Epic Splash, I feel like was definitely a very troll. Like you could like gambler into five Exodia at the start of the entire thing, or it could be now it's like five evolutions or whatever.
Yeah.
While your opponent has one prize card and just win. But like there's so many win cons. I think there's every single win con and it's like legitimately possible. Like it
Yeah.
happens every 1 to 3 games. Like deck out, your opponent has no bench. It's all six prize cards.
Mhm. They're
Exodia.
all donking, all equally possible. Five different win conditions, and you can pick whatever you want.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty good. But what are your thoughts on making Remicarp the new Epic Splash
No,
mascot?
no.
Oh.
I took out your Remi cards after you vandalized my deck. I replaced them with Ilya's Russian magic cards at first, and then I switched them into I think it was Ref Epic Splash cards. Yeah, something else, something shiny.
Isn't there the golden? Are those the same things? The golden Magikarps?
Yeah, man, but like the golden ones have just risen in price since we got Epic Splash out there.
You're like, okay, I'm not gonna skew any prices, but I've looked on eBay and like a PSA 10 goes for a couple $10,000, tens of thousands
Yeah,
of dollars.
I think last time I checked a raw like normal one was like 30 bucks played condition, but that's a while ago I checked. We're talking years. So I don't even want to be checking anymore. But no, yeah, people can max rarity to the decks when for Epic Splash, and it would be cool. I want to see that. Um, but yeah, it's it's definitely something.
What is your proudest accomplishment outside the Pokemon world?
Oh, there's a bunch. I mean, finishing my high school, actually. was quite emotional for me back then. So high school in Denmark's 3 years, and it's after 10th grade. So you do 10 years of schooling and then you go to high school.
Yeah.
Middle of my high school, we got hit by COVID, so we had to do online classes. And just like life, I'm not good at that. And I was actually in danger of failing multiple classes in high school, which may seem surprising to someone, but not me really. So felt good that I got to finish that with all sorts of roadblocks I had along the way, if I had to put that shortly, or otherwise, like I was close to winning with my school team. We were close to winning the national cup, not national soccer cup for schools back when I was a ninth grader.
Soccer.
That was also pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure. It had to be like either academically or like academically, I haven't gotten anything. I'm starting university next year, hopefully, and getting my my bachelor's degree. Otherwise, it had to be within the footballing world. And I mean, uh, I played at the third tier nationally back in the day until I got an injury. I mean, there's a lot to take from, but I don't think anything can match what I've put into Pokemon and what I've gotten out of Pokemon. I still do play football. I still do that, and I will play that till my body gives out, and I can't do that no more. But I think, whenever I have to say something outside of Pokemon, it's going to be so difficult to say because
Yeah.
um, everything is a step along the way. Everything is cool. I think, you know, as I think a year and a half ago, I played for an amateur side and we beat a semi-pro team. I think that's actually like pretty good accomplishment to put on to it.
Yeah.
Um, but there's like no comparison in the American way of speaking it. I think for the English audience or European audience out there, it would be the same as if let's just say a League One team beat a Premier League team at that point.
Wait, hold up. Is it pronounced soccer or football?
Football, because we play with our feet. Like in
Yeah, but
your
like we also have football.
football,
We
American
kick.
football, the only ones who use their actual feet are the kickers, and they kick an egg.
Yeah. I mean,
So
football or soccer.
it's always just football.
I think it's football because that's isn't that like the origins, the roots, or is it soccer the roots? I gotta look that up.
Soccer is actually, I think actually soccer was the roots. But after the Football Association in England was established, because it started as ASOC, and then after the FA was established in England, it was called football because FA, English FA stands for English Football Association, which was the first football association in the world.
And this right here is what a nerd for football looks like. Just like we're all nerds for Pokemon.
I mean, I nerd everything I do, I nerd into a lot. Football history, world history, Pokemon history. I'm at Wikipedia for all that.
I know a lot of Pokemon lore. Like I watched a video last week and there was like a lot of things, like the entire timeline of Pokemon.
Yeah, the timeline of Pokemon is so hard to put into because they're each thinking like in terms of timeline of products, things that happen within the game, world champions, and like then again, I think 99% of YouTube videos aren't getting the whole picture because if you had to get the whole entire picture, you should do one video of 3 hours for one TCG event
Yeah,
to
like
cover all the interesting stories. And I feel if we go into that topic actually of like post-event recaps and stuff like that, one thing that I am not happy about, and it may sound arrogant at some point, I don't want it to sound arrogant. I think the way that I won Worlds in 2016 is more surprising than Shintaro Ito winning with Mega Audino. I think
Mega
my
was
deck
good
by
too.
far is worse, and I think that I know it was Masters. But like I was in a generation where like John Eng and Cal
Yeah,
Connor and
I think
seniors,
you were like seniors back then used to be so stacked.
it was stacked. Like t I beat Tanner Hurley in top eight. I beat Connor Peterson in finals, right? And I think like it was like Justin Kulas who also got like immense accomplishments. I beat him, I think, in like round eight. Like I played against all sorts of people throughout the tournament, but literally, I think my Worldsman from 2016 does deserve a recap video of the way that it was done. But I also think it would not be interesting for the broader public. But it would only be in there for you could say for the
Hardcore.
boys, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
hardcore
For
TCG
the
fans.
yeah, for the hardcore TCG fans. Um, but I also think like if I then scoot that into like personality wise, I think there's a lot of things which I differ from the community by. Um, but I think that's another topic.
Yeah. Well, do you think you're the better Eriksen?
If we look on the basis of prize money earned, yes, which is a definitely a factor to put into. In Masters, it's arguable whether or not I have better accomplishments than some of them. I think had, my brother Simon played, he would have been a better Ericsson of all of us. Um, but I think with the rap sheet I got now, I edge Stefan out, put Stefan stretching and all that, which is, well, that is what it is, right? Uh, but currently, yes, I'm the better Ericsson on the basis of, we're not all playing at the same time. We had a year actually. Yeah, 2017, the year after one Worlds. Me, Simon, and Stefan were all in the top 22 of Europe.
That's crazy. Have you ever played them? Like,
I played Stefan, and I have a negative record against him. That's true. I think I played Simon at a cup, beat him. We all once had a cup where table one was, I think, me versus Simon, and table two was Stefan against someone else. That was pretty insane. I think I played it once against Jonas or something and beat him too. Like the issue is just that Jonas, my one of my brothers, like the youngest older brother that I have, he quit like in 2015 around about because he didn't like the way that the game was continuing in. But he did play a few locals here and there afterwards. Um, but yeah, like I think Stefan's actually the only brother that I have a negative record against, but it's very likely that we don't get to play against each other again.
yeah.
In majors at least.
How's the transition from playing to casting?
Oh my God. It's I remember Gdansk as my first event. The whole experience of working an event versus playing an event is so much different. Like I have so many things that I need to learn or relearn from casting because a lot of things in terms of like how you do your role on camera. I don't have any issues being in front of a camera. I don't, and I don't have any issues speaking to a camera or to people who I can't see. I think the biggest culture shock was like the amount of cameras that we have to work with, the screen we have on the desk,
Yeah.
and the way of which we're working in such, a fast-paced environment as broadcasting is definitely something that's different because whenever you're playing, you're sitting and concentrating on one thing. And if you mess up, well, it's on you. But one thing that I feel whenever I'm doing casting is that if I do a mistake, I'm not just letting myself down. I feel that I also let the whole production staff down. So I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for everyone out there watching and trying to give everyone a positive experience and also giving them an educational experience because I want to be able to tell people the stories and I want to be able to teach people about why these players on camera, whenever they're doing good plays, why they're doing them and why they're actually good at the game and why uh, that you as a complete newbie can't do quite the same unless you've practiced thousands of hours like anyone else has. To push it out there, it's like you can't really put up a number of the amount of hours. Like the expression you're saying is basically like I've practiced for countless hours. Like we all have, and that's healthy because it also means that, you're committed to the game. Whereas, you know, there are people out there who barely practice pick up, but they can do good. Well, good on them. But I think, consistent results as I have had in the past, you have as well, is created by, hard work. Some people have a talent for it. I mean, you don't get to the top of the step without some kind of card game playing talent. You don't. But it also requires practice and hard work. If you're just trying to pilot everything on talent, you're gonna put that talent to waste. So it's the same for sports. So I did capture new awards there, Remy, but yeah, we agreed. Like it's countless of hours that you have to be practicing
Yeah.
to be good or be a great of the game.
And then who has inspired you most throughout your journey?
There's loads of people. Like people like the work ethic of people like Tord is crazy. Like I've seen that with my own eyes, and I'm lucky to have minds like him, like Oscar, like Robin to bounce off of ideas. But I think the one who inspired me the most, who's close to me, just like the people I mentioned were, like it's definitely my brother Simon. He is the brother if you put us beside each other, we are very much alike. Probably not in terms of physical appearance, but in terms of like the way we are as
Yeah.
people. And I think it's just funny to see that. And it's also whenever we're talking about Pokemon, we're very much in agreement of how Pokemon should be and how we want to be playing the game. So I think like he inspired me so much throughout my early years. And I remember the night before I played day two of Worlds. I was about to cut some cards on my list, and he literally took the pen out of my hand, slapped me, and said, "No, you're not doing that." And then and he went like, "You're going to bed." And I was like, "Okay, okay, I'll do that." And it's actually thanks to him
Couldn't
that
you change your list like on day two of Worlds? Can't you do that still?
no, because this was the night before day two. Yes, you could change it between day one and day two. I didn't play day one, so
Oh,
I was just being anxious so much about playing Worlds that year. So that was the whole entirety reason why. So yeah, Simon inspired me the most. He is a rock in terms of what I've done. And had it not been for him, had it not been for my brothers, had it not been for my parents supporting us all, yeah, I wouldn't have been where I was or where I am. So it's all thanks to them that I've got something that, you know, resembles a career out of
yeah.
this. And it's definitely something that I want to be make a career out of. I don't necessarily want to be making a playing career, but I want to be making a career out of being, a good role model for as many players as I can be in both in coaching, but also like in terms of like broadcasting and stuff. I think, getting to that, my goal every single time is to get a Worlds invite every season so that if I don't cast Worlds, which I mean, it's hard to do. There's only a
Yeah.
X amount of spots, and that I'm at least sure to play because I want to be attending Worlds every single
Yeah.
year. And I think, let me put this number out here. I think besides Ross Coffin, I am the one person who has attended the most consecutive World Championships after this one
Okay.
from the numbers I've gotten.
It's
And we're
very
talking in
interesting.
attendance, not in invites gotten, because Alessandro Cremascoli beats me there. And I have to check with Diego Castiraga how many he has consecutive in terms of attendances, but I'm pretty sure I'm second after Ross
Pretty,
Coffin.
that's pretty good. It is pretty
Yep,
good.
indeed. Makes me
Um,
feel old.
honestly, I still can't believe 2020 was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, with the feeling of getting old, well, you get there, but like feeling old at 23, sheesh, that's something.
Yeah. If there's one thing you could change about the game, what would it be?
Um, I think, oh yes, this is a good one. Getting rid of price checking element. Just whenever in competitive matches, whenever a player plays a searching card, let them pick up their prize cards and note them down. Shuffle the prize cards and then get on going. You save 2 minutes of every game.
Yeah,
And
honestly,
then if you do that, it would actually mean that 50 minutes would be okay to play best of three in.
yeah. Most games just come down to like 3, 4 minutes. Like
Yeah.
if you had extra 3, 4 minutes, you could finish it.
Yeah, but you're getting, you know, if you're saying two
Yeah,
minutes a pop per game, it's 12 minutes you're saving,
yeah,
which is time that could have been spent playing. So you went from 38 minutes of effective game time to 50.
250. Yeah,
So
that's pretty good.
that's the one thing I would have changed currently. Um, because that's the easiest one to change. And that's the one that would give a lot of people such a better experience at tournaments and also give us, better tournament results.
Yeah, like I feel like it also make like people who are just starting, it'd make it a lot easier for them
Yeah.
because like you don't really just like you need to learn your deck inside and out so you can price check.
I mean, you should be able to know that. You should be knowing the 60 you're playing
Yeah.
regardless if you're new or if you practice your deck. But this is just to save time. I hate inefficiency to the core of my soul. And then also, being stricter on time limits. Those
Yeah,
two, and you create a better game.
that's true. And then finally, what can we expect from you in the future?
I want to be making as much as a of a dual career as I have so far. I think my results wise, I am more hungry now than I was like 2 years ago to get into the higher echelons of the game. And I think what motivates me usually when I'm playing football is actually anger. And I am sort of angry about my own performances in some parts, and I'm frustrated. And I think that frustration is going to set me apart next season. And I think that I'll be more able to compete among the elite in the tournaments that I do attend.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I mean, some of the goals on my mind is like, yes, attend Worlds every year. I pray that I could get to win another World Championships someday. Due to a condition I had some memory loss, and if you ask me now, like in terms of the feeling of when I won Worlds, I wouldn't actually be quite sure when I told you if I was lying or not.
Okay.
Like I know it had to be feeling amazing, but I can't like if I close my eyes, I can't recall me, you know, I can't recall people clapping at me. I could see that on a video from the stream of that year, but I can't recall exactly how it felt.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, like the experience is great, but
So this is
it's
great. I would do everything it takes to try it again. But then again, I also had the realization during, especially this season, that if I don't, I'm at peace with it because I've done it.
yeah.
And I think my role in the community nowadays is to educate and to be a good role model. And I
Yeah.
think that's something I take a lot more serious. But whenever I'm playing to win like everyone else is. But I want to be a gentleman while doing it, and I want to be doing everything fair and square.
Yeah. Thank you for taking this time to do the interview. And if you have any shout outs you would like to do, feel free to do it now.
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to shout out my family, my girlfriend, the ones who are the rock of my foundation in my everyday life. My sponsors, Drag Shield, Beckett, and the boys from Limitless are great. Oscar for this season, for basically just handing me an invite. I think had it not been for him, I would have been where I was this year. No invite. And yeah, everyone, you know, booking coaching with me, believing in the gospel, so to speak. and believing that I want to do good. And lastly, um, the CSL production company and TPCI for believing that I can add to their organizations with the talents that I possess. So yeah, thank you to them. Thank you to my family. Thank you to everyone watching the streams. Thank you to everyone watching the content that me and Oscar post. Thank you to everyone on Medify. Thank you to everyone around for making this come true. I'm truly blessed, and I believe that I can make this into a career, and that's why I've been working so hard, and that I work tirelessly to help everyone out.
Well, that was honestly probably one of the best plugs I've heard. Um, I honestly hope to see you casting, playing, or just hang around at the next events. And as always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.